Growing up in two different worlds taught me one thing: respect isn't something you can demand. It's something you earn, and it's not about who you know, where you're from, or what you where. It's about who you choose to be every single day. But here's the thing no one tells you sometimes. It's not about adding more to your life, it's about letting go. Letting go of the habits that silently sabotage your worth, your presence, your power in today's world. If you want to be taken seriously, not just liked, but truly respected, there are 5 habits you must leave behind. Not tomorrow, not someday, now. So let's get uncomfortable. Let's get real, and let's start stepping into the version of you that commands the room with authenticity, with integrity, and with grace. This isn't just about success. This is about self-respect, and it begins with what you're willing to change. We live in a world where being too much is often seen as a flaw. Too bold, too confident, too ambitious. Especially for women, having standards is sometimes mistaken for being difficult. But let's get one thing straight. Having standards is not arrogance. It's clarity. When you know your worth, you no longer feel the need to shrink yourself just to make others comfortable. You stop tolerating the bare minimum. You stop accepting half-hearted effort. And most importantly, you stop saying it's okay when it's not. Apologizing for your standards is like giving people permission to disrespect your boundaries. It tells them you're unsure of what you deserve. And when you act unsure, the world mirrors that back to you. You start getting treated like an option instead of a priority. But here's the truth: people will only rise to the level you set. Lower your standards, and you invite behavior that reflects that. Keep them high, and you teach others how to treat you. Standards are not just about relationships. They show up in your work, your friendships, how you let people speak to you, and even how you speak to yourself. If you constantly make excuses for others just to keep the peace, you end up at war with yourself. If you compromise too often, you start losing pieces of your identity. And once you start losing that inner compass, it becomes harder and harder to trust your own judgment. It's not your job to make others comfortable with your confidence. It's not your job to downplay your dreams so that someone else feels secure. The people who are meant to walk with you in life will respect your standards, not resent them. But that respect has to start from you. You can't ask others to value what you keep giving away for free. You can't expect loyalty, effort, or honesty from people when you're not even demanding those things from yourself. Every time you apologize for your standards, you take a step away from your power. You teach yourself that maybe your needs are too much. Maybe you're expecting the impossible, but deep down you know that's not true. You know that having expectations is not a weakness. It's a sign of self-awareness. Seeking constant validation is one of the most subtle yet destructive habits when it comes to earning respect. It starts off innocently asking for feedback, wanting reassurance, needing approval, but over time it becomes a pattern. You start second, guessing your decisions, your words, your presence. You begin to outsource yourself, worth to the opinions of others. And the more you do that, the less control you have over your own confidence. When you rely on external validation, you give people the remote control to your emotions. One compliment lifts you up, one criticism tears you down. You become addicted to the praise, the likes, the nods of agreement. But respect doesn't come from how many people like you. It comes from how deeply you like and believe in yourself. Validation should be a bonus, not your foundation. The moment you start chasing approval, you compromise your authenticity. You shift to fit in, to please, to be accepted, and in doing so, you silence your truth. People can feel it when you're not standing firmly in who you are. They notice the hesitation, the people-pleasing energy, the constant need for affirmation. And the reality is, The more you need people to approve of you, the easier it is for them to manipulate you. They know your weakness. They know you'll bend, shift, and twist just to avoid rejection. That doesn't invite respect. That invites control. True respect is earned when you can stand in a room full of differing opinions and still hold your own. When you can make a decision without needing 10 people to tell you it's the right one. When you can walk away from something that doesn't align with your values, even if it means disappointing others. Validation becomes a trap when it starts dictating your choices, your identity, and your voice. You don't need to post every move for applause. You don't need everyone to agree with your journey. Some of the most powerful growth happens in silence, when no one is watching, no one is clapping, and you're still moving forward. You're still choosing yourself, and that inner validation, that quiet knowing, is stronger than any compliment you'll ever receive from the outside. Over-explaining yourself is a habit rooted in the fear of being misunderstood or judged. It often comes from a place of wanting to be liked, wanting to be seen as agreeable, or fearing conflict. But in trying to justify every decision, every feeling, every boundary, you end up diluting your power. You start giving people more access to your mind than they've earned. And instead of appearing confident, you come off as unsure or insecure. When you over-explain, you're essentially asking for permission. You're saying, "Here's why I'm doing this, and I hope you're okay with it." But the truth is, you don't need everyone to be okay with your choices. You're allowed to say no without giving a reason. You're allowed to protect your time, energy, and peace without writing a detailed essay about it. The more you explain, the more room you give others to question you, challenge you, or even gaslight you into doubting yourself. Respect is often earned through clarity and conviction. People are drawn to those who are clear about what they want and unshaken in their decisions. If you say something and immediately feel the urge to soften it with explanations, you're telling others that your truth needs justification. And when you do that repeatedly, you condition yourself to believe that your voice isn't enough on its own. There's a difference between communication and over-explanation. One is about expressing yourself clearly and respectfully. The other is about trying to control how others perceive you. And you can never control that. No matter how much you explain, some people will still misunderstand you. Some will twist your words, doubt your intentions, or simply not care. That's not your burden to carry. You don't need to justify why you chose your path, ended a relationship, changed careers, or set a boundary. You don't need to make others comfortable with your growth. The more you practice standing by your decisions without defending them, the stronger your inner foundation becomes. People begin to notice that you speak with intention, that you act with clarity, and that you don't second-guess your worth. And that quiet confidence commands more respect than any detailed explanation ever could. The fear of saying no is one of the fastest ways to lose respect, not just from others, but from yourself. It often stems from a need to be liked, to avoid conflict, or to be seen as helpful and agreeable. But every time you say yes when you really mean no, you abandon a part of your truth. You betray your energy, your priorities, and your peace to accommodate someone else's expectations. Saying no is not rude, it's not selfish, it's a boundary, a declaration of your values, your limits, and your time. And people who respect you will never be offended by a clear, respectful no. The discomfort comes not from the word itself, but from the guilt we attach to it. We worry that we'll disappoint others, that we'll lose opportunities, that we'll be judged. But in trying to protect others' feelings, we often end up violating our own. When you can't say no, you invite people to take advantage of your time and your kindness. You become the person who's always available, always reliable, always agreeable, and while that may win you temporary appreciation, it rarely earns long-term respect. People respect those who respect themselves, and that respect begins when you're honest about your capacity and unapologetic about your boundaries. The most powerful people in any room are not the loudest or the most agreeable. They're the ones who can stand in their no without flinching. They don't explain it, they don't sugarcoat it, they don't offer excuses. They simply decline what doesn't align with their goals, values, or well-being. And in doing so, they protect their focus, their energy, and their integrity. It's not about saying no to be difficult or defiant. It's about honoring your yes. Every no you say to something misaligned is a deeper yes to what truly matters. Your time is a currency, your energy is an investment. If you keep spending both on things that don't serve you, you'll have nothing left for what does. People may not always like your boundaries, but they will learn to respect them. And in that process, you'll learn to trust yourself more deeply, because every no you give from a place of self-respect reinforces your value. Gossip and small talk may seem harmless, even entertaining, but they slowly chip away at your credibility and influence. When you engage in conversations that revolve around tearing others down, speculating about their lives, or indulging in negativity, you train people to question your integrity. If you speak about others behind their backs, it sends a silent message that you might do the same to them. And in that moment, the respect you're trying to build begins to erode. People who command respect don't waste their words. They choose conversations that uplift, inform, or inspire. Gossip and meaningless chatter may fill silence, but they don't build trust. They create an atmosphere of superficiality, where loyalty becomes conditional and truth gets twisted. The moment you find comfort in gossip, you begin to rely on the weakness of others to feel strong. That's not power. That's insecurity in disguise. Respect grows in spaces of maturity and self-control. It's easy to join in when everyone's joking, criticizing, or mocking someone who's not around. But it takes real strength to step away from that energy, to redirect the conversation, or simply choose silence. Silence in those moments speaks louder than any word. It says, I don't need to diminish someone else to feel relevant. And that kind of strength doesn't go unnoticed. Small talk, on the other hand, is often used to avoid depth. It fills time, not connection. When you constantly linger in surface-level conversation, people rarely get to know your values, your vision, or your voice. It's not about avoiding casual conversation entirely. It's about knowing when to shift from shallow to meaningful. People are drawn to depth. They remember those who challenge their thinking, who bring presence into a conversation, who make them feel seen. That's the kind of connection that builds respect. Being intentional with your words is not just about avoiding negativity, it's about aligning your language with your character. Speak with purpose. Refuse to participate in conversations that make you feel small or that compromise your values. Choose to be someone whose presence creates trust, not tension. The more you elevate your conversations, the more you elevate your presence, and the more you create a reputation that others instinctively respect. The need to fit in is deeply human. We all want to feel accepted, to belong, to be part of something. But when fitting in requires you to shrink yourself, silence your truth, or mold your identity to match the crowd, it comes at the cost of your individuality. And in the pursuit of being liked by everyone, you often lose the very thing that makes you unforgettable, your uniqueness. People may like those who conform, but they respect those who stand out. When you spend your energy trying to blend in, you start editing your personality. You laugh when it's not funny, agree when you want to challenge, and stay quiet when your voice is needed. Over time, this performance becomes exhausting. You begin to lose touch with your own opinions, your own desires, and your own instincts. And when you disconnect from who you really are, it shows in your body language, in your tone, in your presence. Respect fades when authenticity is missing. Authenticity is magnetic. People may not always agree with you, but they will feel the strength of your conviction when you show up fully as yourself. Owning your quirks, your background, your flaws, and your strengths without apology is what separates leaders from followers. It's not about being loud or dominant. It's about being real. And in a world full of replicas, real is rare. Real is respected. Trying to fit in often leads to comparison. You start measuring your journey against someone else's highlight reel. You begin questioning your timing, your path, your pace. But no two lives are meant to look the same. Your difference is your edge. Your story, with all its detours and imperfections, carries a strength that no one else can replicate. The sooner you stop chasing acceptance and start embracing alignment, the more powerful you become. Respect isn't given to the person who fits every mold. It's given to the one who breaks the mold and dares to lead anyway. When you stop needing everyone's approval, you free yourself to follow your own direction. That freedom is felt. It radiates in your choices, your presence, and your voice. People start looking to you, not because you fit in, but because you stood out with purpose, with integrity, and without fear of rejection.